They thought it was just smoke, until she realized it was not coming from the plane. Sarah Martinez watched in frozen horror as thick black tendrils rose from the forest below, creeping closer to the aircraft with an intelligence that made her blood run cold. What she discovered next would change everything she believed about that doomed flight. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please, like and subscribe for more videos like this. Sarah Martinez had been working as an air traffic controller for 7 years at Denver Regional Airport. Every day she guided hundreds of flights through the mountain corridors, her voice calm and steady over the radio. She prided herself on never panicking, never losing focus. But nothing in her training had prepared her for what happened on November 14th. It started as an ordinary Tuesday morning. Sarah arrived at the tower at 5:30, her thermos of coffee in hand. She settled into her station, adjusting her headset as the first rays of sunlight painted the Rocky Mountains gold. Flight 273 was scheduled to depart at 6:15, a routine domestic flight to Chicago. She watched the Boeing appear on her radar screen, a small blip moving steadily down the runway. The takeoff was smooth. Captain Rodriguez checked in with his usual professional tone, confirming altitude and heading. Sarah logged the information, already shifting her attention to the next departure. Everything was normal. Everything was perfect. Then, at 6:22, her screen flickered. Sarah leaned forward, frowning. The blip representing Flight 273 wavered, then stabilized. Probably just a minor glitch in the system. It happens sometimes, but something made her reach for her binoculars. She scanned the sky, finding the aircraft climbing steadily through a bank of morning clouds. Then she saw it smoke, dark, thick smoke, trailing from somewhere below the plane. Her first thought was engine trouble. Sarah immediately keyed her microphone to alert Captain Rodriguez. But as she watched through the binoculars, her words died in her throat. The smoke was not coming from the engines. It was not coming from the plane at all. It was rising from the forest below, following the aircraft like a living shadow. Sarah blinked hard, certain her eyes were playing tricks. She had been up since 4 in the morning. Maybe she was seeing things. But when she looked again, the smoke was still there, impossibly thick and black, rising in columns that bent and twisted as if reaching for the plane above. The pattern made no sense. Forest fires did not behave that way. Smoke did not move with such purpose. She grabbed the radio. Captain Rodriguez, this is Denver Control. Do you see any smoke or unusual activity below your position? There was a pause. Negative, Denver Control. All systems normal. Clear skies ahead. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. She was looking right at it. How could he not see it? She called her supervisor, Marcus Chen, over to her station. Marcus had 20 years of experience. If anyone could explain this, he could. He took the binoculars, aimed them at Flight 273, and went very still. Sarah, he said slowly, when did this start? Just now, she replied. Maybe 2 minutes ago. Marcus lowered the binoculars, his face pale. Called the Forest Service. Now. Sarah dialed with shaking hands. Within minutes, she had a ranger on the line. She described what she was seeing, the impossible smoke, the way it seemed to track the aircraft. The ranger was silent for a long moment. Ma'am, we have no active fires in that sector. Are you certain about what you are seeing? Sarah looked through the binoculars again. The smoke had grown thicker, darker. Yes, she whispered. I am certain, Marcus made the decision to divert Flight 2. Sarah watched as Captain Rodriguez acknowledged the instruction, banking the aircraft eastward, and that is when everything changed. The smoke moved with the plane. It followed the turn, maintaining the same distance below, the same reaching pattern. Sarah felt ice flood her veins. This was not natural. This could not be natural, Captain Rodriguez, she said, her voice tight. We need you to increase altitude immediately. There was concern in his response now. Denver Control, what are we dealing with here? Just climb, Captain, please. The aircraft pitched upward, engines roaring, and the smoke climbed with it. Other controllers had gathered around Sarah's station now, all of them staring at the monitors and through binoculars. Nobody spoke. They watched as Flight 273 fought to gain altitude, and the smoke kept pace. Then someone noticed something else. The smoke was not just following, it was spreading. Tendrils branched off from the main columns, reaching outward, creating a web beneath the aircraft. Sarah's mind raced. She thought of the 147 passengers on that plane. She thought of the crew. She thought of Captain Rodriguez, who had a daughter graduating college next month. She had to do something. But what could she do against something that defied every law of physics she knew? Then her phone rang. It was the Forest Service calling back. The ranger's voice was urgent. We found something. Your smoke, it is not smoke at all. We have had reports all morning of a massive insect swarm in that area. Locusts, millions of them. They are reacting to the aircraft's heat signature and exhaust. They are trying to reach it. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Locusts, a swarm large enough to look like smoke from miles away. A swarm dense enough to bring down a plane if they were sucked into the engines. She had seconds to act. Captain Rodriguez, emergency descent, now. Cut your engines to minimum thrust. You have a biological hazard below you. Repeat, biological hazard. There was no hesitation this time. Captain Rodriguez dropped the aircraft like a stone, diving away from the swarm. Sarah held her breath, watching the radar, watching the sky. The black cloud hesitated, confused by the sudden change in heat and movement. The plane dove through clear air, racing away from the danger. But the swarm adapted. It shifted direction, reforming, pursuing. Sarah realized with growing horror that the insects were not just following heat. They were following movement, sound, the vibration of the engines. And they were fast. Faster than she had imagined possible. The gap between the plane and the swarm was closing. She contacted every airport within range. Flight 273 needed to land immediately, but it needed a runway far from any other aircraft, far from buildings, far from anything the swarm might attack next. Colorado Springs responded. They had a remote strip used for cargo. They could clear it in 10 minutes. Sarah guided Captain Rodriguez through the fastest descent profile she dared. The plane screamed downward, passengers surely terrified, alarms blaring in the cockpit. Behind it, the swarm gave chase, a roiling mass of millions of bodies moving as one organism. She could see it clearly now without binoculars. It looked like a thundercloud, but it pulsed and writhed with terrible life. 5 miles from Colorado Springs. 4 miles. 3. The swarm was gaining. Sarah could hear the tension in Captain Rodriguez's voice as he called out altitudes. 2,000 feet. 1,500. 1,000. The runway appeared below, a grey stripe across brown earth. Captain Rodriguez lined up, his approach fast and steep, Nothing like a normal landing. 500 feet. The swarm was directly behind them now, close enough that Sarah imagined she could hear the drone of millions of wings. 200 feet. Captain Rodriguez cut the engines completely, letting the aircraft glide on momentum alone. 100 feet. The swarm reached out, tendrils of insects stretching toward the tail section. The wheels hit concrete with a shriek of rubber. Captain Rodriguez slammed the brakes, reverse thrusters roaring to life for just seconds before shutting down again. The plane skidded, slowed, stopped, and the swarm, confused by the sudden absence of heat and vibration, scattered. It broke apart into smaller clouds, drifting away across the empty fields. No longer unified, no longer hunting. Sarah collapsed into her chair, her hands shaking so badly she could barely key the microphone. Flight 273, you are clear. Emergency vehicles are approaching your position. Captain Rodriguez's voice came back, ragged with exhaustion and relief. Denver Control. That was the finest piece of air traffic control I have ever witnessed. Thank your team for us. Thank yourself. The investigation took weeks. Entomologists confirmed that the swarm had been the largest locust migration seen in North America in 50 years. Climate changes had disrupted their normal patterns, concentrating millions of insects in areas they had never inhabited before. The swarm had been attracted to Flight 273 by a combination of engine heat, vibration, and pure instinct. If Sarah had not seen them, if she had not acted, the plane would have flown directly into the densest part of the swarm. Engine failure would have been inevitable. Crash would have been certain. Sarah received commendations from the FAA, from the airline, from the governor. But she did not feel like a hero. She felt like someone who had glimpsed something beyond normal understanding. Something that reminded her how fragile human technology was against the raw power of nature. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that black smoke that was not smoke. Reaching and reaching. Captain Rodriguez visited her at the tower 3 weeks later. He brought his daughter with him, the college graduate, bright-eyed and grateful to have her father alive. They did not talk much about that day. What was there to say? Sarah had done her job. Captain Rodriguez had done his, and somehow, impossibly, everyone had survived. But Sarah knew the truth. It was not just skill or training that saved Flight 273. It was the fact that she had looked up at exactly the right moment, that she had trusted what her eyes told her, even when it seemed impossible, that she had acted when hesitation would have been fatal. The margin between disaster and survival had been measured in seconds, in the speed of her decision. In the willingness to believe the unbelievable, she still works that tower. She still guides planes through the mountain corridors. But now, every time she sees a shadow on her radar, every time something looks unusual in the sky, she does not dismiss it. She does not assume it is a glitch or a trick of the light. She investigates. She asks questions. She trusts her instincts, because she learned something that November morning that no training manual could teach. The world is stranger than we imagine. Danger can come from directions we never anticipate. And sometimes, the difference between tragedy and miracle is simply one person who refuses to look away. Flight 273 still makes its route to Chicago. Captain Rodriguez still flies. The passengers who were on board that day still tell the story of the landing that saved their lives. Though most of them never knew about the swarm, never understood how close they came. And somewhere in the Colorado wilderness, the locusts continue their ancient patterns, following instincts millions of years old. indifferent to the humans flying overhead. Sarah thinks about that sometimes, late at night, when the tower is quiet. She thinks about those insects, each one insignificant alone, but together forming something that looked like smoke, like shadow, like death itself, rising from the earth. She thinks about how we build our planes and our towers and our systems, believing we have conquered the sky. But the sky does not belong to us. It never did. We are guests there, temporary and fragile, and every day, every flight, every safe landing, is a small miracle we should never take for granted. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this.